SSG Wildcard, our fourth game of today. Welcome back, everybody, to the NAL, day 2 of the first week. I know it says day 1. I'm just reminding you guys it is actually day 2. We're here ready to talk about SSG and Wildcard, because when we're looking at SSG, I think yesterday was a pretty good performance from their end of things, whereas Wildcard, a little bit lackluster. I think we expected them to really show up a little bit more after what we've seen against them in Reload, but that wasn't the case.
No, we didn't see much adaptation from Wildcard at all. It looked like they were just dead in the water when something went wrong. If they lost a pick, there wasn't really a response. As for SSG, though, it was pretty good. I wouldn't say it's where they need to be, but it was an absolute great start. Baby steps into the right direction of where they need to be.
Yeah, I mean, I want to more focus on wild cards, particularly just for the fact, I mean, I think they were, dealt the wrong set of cards to begin with. So obviously today's a brand new day. But I think the biggest thing that you just touched up on was the fact that we didn't see those adaptations that we were so used to seeing throughout Reload, because that's really what made them such a prominent and dominant team through and through all of Reload.
Yeah, and SSG, though, I mean, even though Reload didn't necessarily go their way with the 1-win and then losing the games after that, they still came out yesterday swinging, and they had a good performance.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is what we wanted to see. I mean, it was a consistent entry battle. Obviously, they were playing against Cruelty. Cruelty was able to sneak some rounds away from them. The response time wasn't where it needs to be, but where it was the entries. I mean, everything from Ashen and Newers on the entry. I mean, the whole team was playing amazing, and you can see it. I mean, 7 entries to 3. Besides those 3 rounds that Cruelty was able to do rush strats and take it away from SSG, they always had a response. When it came down to the clutch situations, SSG played really well off of each other, and that's what we needed to see, because at Reload, a lot of the star players, the whole supporting cast around Newers, were struggling. They were having some issues. They weren't back into prime focus. But that change that Callout talked about doing for the roles to make themselves more comfortable and fit Newers into the system is exactly what we saw, specifically with Ashen yesterday. I mean, him on the entry, he was phenomenal, going 5-0 on the entry.
Yeah.
He was completely shutting down everybody from Cruelty every single moment. He was in these positions where they would be considered death spots, but Cruelty wasn't doing enough when it came to 1v1ing. They were just giving their bodies away one after the other, and Ashen was always catching them out.
Yeah, which, I mean, I think, the biggest thing from Reload versus now is the fact that Ashen's actually to play his style of Siege, what we're so used to seeing, what we've talked about from time and time again, being aggressive, getting in your face, typing in the server. I mean, that never seems to end no matter what, whether it's performance. But the fact of the matter is, like you were saying, is they tried a shift of putting everyone to be around Newers to try to make that work, which ultimately put Ashen on a shield role that he's not super comfortable on. Obviously, very terrible performance at Reload, but now they're trying to find unison and all of one another, being able to take initiative where it needs to, because I think that was the biggest question of losing for us that we even talked about, Fultz, was who's going to step up. And now he said everyone, just depending on the role, depending on the position that they are in, everyone can make those plays and make those big moments happen. And clearly Ashen is right back to where you were.
Yeah, and we saw that specifically yesterday, but again, it still needs something. It still has to be something that we see them replicate time and time again. And you're going up against Wildcard, and if anything, like if yesterday was a testament to how Wildcard's going to be performing, I don't think SSG is going to have too much of a difficulty. But we also have to remember that when we saw this roster at Reload, they were really good at adapting.
No, they were extremely good at adapting. I think they were one of the best teams that were adapting and just being able to quickly find the correct answer and the correct route inside those attacks, and we just did not see that at the beginning of this day or even throughout all of it, because what we were seeing was the exact opposite. They looked a little confused. They were just throwing bodies into scenarios where Cloud9 was picking up. I mean, that right there, Giddy was just getting a free 3K after one right after the other. We have to see that sort of Wildcard, and this is what I was worried about. Was Reload going to be the best that we see from Wildcard, and then immediately that's the only hurdle that they had to get over, and now they're going to be stuck in dead water here, that they're just going to be a sinking ship. I want to see consistency from these guys, and which is why I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt going into today, that yesterday was just a hiccup, just a little bump in the road, that they can get over this, but trust me, it has to be a far better performance from them from what we saw yesterday going into today.
Yeah, and yesterday as well as 2 players that we highlighted were Baby Shark and Dash, and we were just like, okay, we want these players to be the ones stepping up to the plate, but it didn't feel like that was the case at all.
Yeah, and that's the worrisome part, is because how well Dash played in particularly to Reload was a huge reason also as to why Wildcard was having so much success during Reload. But when you look at everyone's stats, I mean, it speaks for itself.
Yeah, I mean, Kansan absolutely did his best to be able to keep the man count in their advantage. And obviously, it goes without saying, I think Kansan is probably the most slept-on player in the league. I think he's easily within the top of the ranks. And when it comes to the rest of the team, we had high hopes just because not of individual play, but specifically because of the adaptation. So me personally, I figured when they come to the NAL, if things go wrong, they'll always have that adaptation to work on. But it looked like they were extremely frozen, and it was all on the shoulders of Kansan to try to find these picks, try to get these fights. And some of these fights that he was getting was godsend. He was doing his absolute best, getting picks for his team. The rest of the team, unfortunately, over-positioned, not in the right spots. They weren't able to trade or connect anything. So even though Kansan did his best, hopefully he can keep up that consistency, and he's been consistent since joining Wildcard. But the rest of the team, we need to see them resurge, play like they played in Reload, not just individual performance. Yes, we'd like to see Dash do better, but it needs to come down to the teamwork. But absolutely, but it comes down to the teamwork of them being able to problem solve.
Right.
And we also need to see maybe something else when it comes to that map veto, because yesterday it just didn't work out for Wildcard at all. So when we were looking at today, what do we want to see? Where do we want Wildcard to go to give themselves a fighting chance?
Like I said, they want the 3 Cs. They want one of the 3 Cs. So the fact that I'm already seeing Clubhouse out of there, I'm hopefully that we're maybe going to see a Consulate or a Chalet again. No, they want to get rid of it, so it's going to be Consulate. This is a very comfortable map for Wildcard. This was what actually impressed me the most during Reload, is because of how well and quick they were to adapt on this map. Because Consulate is a very hard map to move around once you're in position, but that is actually where they were thriving, was because it's such a chaotic map. Once you get into that late round, they were quick to adjust. They were quick to rotate players around, and that's the wild card that we need to see. So thankfully, they're coming into a familiar territory that they're going to be comfortable in, but if they can't figure out their adaptations, especially on those attacks, they are going to struggle, and they are going to struggle hard.
And I hope they don't, because when it comes to the operator lineups that Wildcard was bringing out Reload, abusing the sense to get them out of admin, using the Grim, every single piece of utility was used together. But when it comes to figuring out those problems, that's where I feel like they'll get into a roadblock. Because if Ashen and Newers and the rest of SSG play the way they played yesterday, they weren't letting Cruelty really get into the building besides fast rushes. When it came to adapting, the rest of SSG were always there to meet the enemy team head on. So I could see, especially on a map like Consulate, just getting into the building, getting into admin, getting into CEO, SSG is going to meet them head on, and that'll be a challenge that Wildcard has to be able to figure out quickly, because that is SSG's full playstyle on this map.
So are we expecting Wildcard to be able to take this?
I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, I would have gone with Wildcard had I not seen Kansan's tweet yesterday. Typically when a team loses, they say, you know what, they just got the best of us. It was a poor performance of us. But Kansan was pissed off. He said that was a shit show. So that alone, clear, there's more issues going on in there.
Or it's like motivation that they're going to do really well today because they're upset about yesterday, and maybe I'm just trying to be a little bit.
I think there's a little bit of copium there, but
yeah.
I think there's a lot more issues that were going on in that game outside of just play.
Yeah, to me, it strikes me as they were shocked that they did so bad because they thought they did the right preparation, which means they were caught off guard. And when it comes to preparation, I couldn't name you a better team at it than SSG when it comes to counter-stratting and being aggressive at it.
Yeah, well, whether or not Wildcard has the right preparation for this matchup, we're going to be ready to find out as we're heading into our fourth game of today with our lovely casters, Jesse and Intero, who can also give us a prediction and let us know whether or not Wildcard has a chance.
I think every team always has a chance when we go into these matchups. It's just, what are the odds of one team prevailing over another? We're about to get the community vote here, so we'll know exactly what the people seem to think. And Space Station's favorite number, 69%, versus Wildcard at 31%. I mean, I don't think that's that wildly off base. Space Station is a hard team to quantify, and an even harder team to know which Space Station is going to show up. Wildcard obviously are more of a wildcard just because we have less game day reps. But I mean, I think Space Station should be the favorite. At the same time, the matches today have not been quite as dramatic as we thought. They've been much closer than anticipated, Jesse.
Yeah, and I mean, Parker, like, what are we talking about right now? You go back just a couple of months ago at Reload, Wildcard, the single best North American representative at that event. SSG, a dumpster fire of a team, couldn't get anything going at all. So yeah, I you know, obviously it's been a couple weeks. Wildcard looked pretty bad yesterday. SSG looked a lot better. Seems like their system is performing for them better than it was when they were kind of building around Newers. But even still, I mean, it wasn't that long ago that you would have looked like a crazy person saying that SSG would be able to beat Wildcard. So absolutely, Wildcard have a chance in here. I do agree broadly SSG are going to be the favorites based on what we saw yesterday, but don't count out Wildcard, okay? They've shown in the past that they're very good, and especially they've shown how good they are on Consulate. The Deaths touched on it. They're really good at adapting on this matchup. It's why they had a 3-0 record on Consulate throughout Reload. It was their single best map at that event. And they've entered with a straight-up curveball to start this game, a mute and smoke ban to take away the SMG-11 from Spacestation Gaming. That is a fun twist, not something we've seen before here on Consulate.
J9O, very focused, even if his camera isn't. An early spawn peek that could have been had with a Vector, which is an interesting gun to try it on, because, I mean, you missed that first bullet and you're probably not making any of the next ones. We were a little bit curious as to which SSG would appear. Yesterday in their matchup against Cruelty, they were spawn peeking like crazy, and Ashen is somehow going to hit Bay with a nitro cell and then hit him with the drive-by question mark in the chat. I would love to have seen what happened there.
Regardless, I mean, that's a big player off the board. Bay was really important yesterday in the rounds where they were winning. Laxing said it, we need Bay to show up for Wildcard to have a good game, not showing up so far here. That nitro cell coming out from Ashen, a big advantage to Bay, who I think was still just sitting on the roof. Now they will drop into the building. Yellow Stairs in control of Dash, but more players going down. Ashen is outside the building, Parker, and he's got 2 kills this game.
Baby Shark is doing his best on the other side of the coin. I'm assuming they're in a basement, by the way. Wildcard is in some kind of team house. I know there was some chatter about Dash looking like he's been taken prisoner because you can see the insulation above him, but you also see it for Baby Shark. Kansan on the board. And now SSG's just got Fultz and J9O left. We've been watching teams try to troubleshoot these different maps as time has gone on, and I mean, Consulate is certainly not new. It's exactly what we expect from this map post-rework. So both these teams will be somewhat familiarized with it. SSG as a unit will be more familiarized just because they've been together longer. Dash getting Diffuser down, Baby Shark and Kansan will cover. And now it's Fultz and J9O attempting to getting closer to the bomb site. J9O picked off, and now it's all up to Fultz. SSG falling by the wayside. Fultz has to pick his poison, and Baby Shark struggles a little bit with that recoil, but still gets the kill, and Wildcard sprints out to a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, good to see Baby Shark showing up early. It took him a long time yesterday to really get going for a Wildcard. He had 0 kills for, I want to say, the first 5 or 6 rounds of their match yesterday on Chalet. Obviously, the French pickup coming in from Tier 2 of Europe. Rare to see somebody make that long of a journey, but Baby Shark, there's a reason he got picked up. You know, he is extremely talented. He was doing a good job this round of picking up kills scattered around the map while Ashen was doing jump outs and tossing nitro cells. Baby Shark on the Dokkaebi was quietly picking players off, using those logic bombs to hunt down specific isolated roamers and then get his team that man advantage, able to convert it into a plant, and that's going to be a first attack from Wildcard. We just watched a match where the attacking team got the first round on Consulate. That was Dark Zero up against Orglis, almost called them LG. Now Wildcard have done the same. That ended pretty good for Dark Zero. Wildcard, they have to be happy with the first round.
I mean, I would be. And that's more the speed of Baby Shark that we were expecting. Yesterday, he had a bit of a disappointing debut from a T1 perspective here in the NA League. And today, he's back to the Baby Shark that we saw do quite well at Reload. He's not the only player on the team who will thrive. Kansan and Bay are also offensive threats. Dash can be when needed. Spiker has had good games, but is in the role that will be less relied upon to get kills. Fultz is in that similar role over on the side of SSG, and if they are leading their team, then something is usually wrong about the way that the team is playing.
opening a bit of a gap here is Spiker. He can, if he gets to the very top, very bottom of this wall, it will become soft. I don't believe it's soft at the moment. Yes, it is. Never mind. He got that fully cleared out, which means that Baby Shark can then pop it open with one of those Ash charges, which is pretty speedily done, I have to say. You're going up against a Kaid sometimes, and a Tubarao, I should mention. Sometimes it's tough to get those walls open quickly, but good utility work from Spiker and Baby Shark.
There's not really much to talk about in terms of where the entry from Wildcard is coming at this particular moment. I mean, we can take a bit of a step back and talk about the prestige of these teams and what the expectations are. Spacestation was victorious in their matchup yesterday, the very final match of the day. Oh my goodness. Against Team Cruelty, they dropped 3 rounds. They've already dropped 1 to Wildcard, though a good start for Spacestation yet again. They got the opening pick in the previous round. They will do so this time. It's Newers with the Nitro Cell to blow things up, but Bay on the board. He was the one that was picked off early before. Bay can be quite good as a fragger. You just need to stay alive a little bit longer than he did in the previous round.
Baby Shark solo entering with no information, punished by Ashen. Obviously, the plan was to walk in right after Dash, but Dash gets blown up, and there's nobody to help drone him out. That logic bomb from Bay would have been nice about 20 seconds ago, so a bit disconnected from Wildcard. One thing goes wrong. Seems like this round is starting to spiral.
Never really know with Consulate. And you never really know with these teams either, but there goes Spiker to Ashen, who I guess got a little bit too close to the bomb site. Diffuser is now miles away from both Kansan and Bay, as Kansan will creep up ever so slowly. He's going to be playing off of Instinct. And his instinct is that somebody's playing top Spiral. He's not wrong. Bay trying to keep his team in it desperately, and now the flank will come out from Benjamaster, who's actually out-dueled by Kansan. My goodness. You said this was spiraling out of control, but with 20 seconds left, it is much more winnable, especially if Kansan is hitting shots like that. It's all up to Fultz in an unpredictable round yet again. The last man standing, 2 rounds in a row. It goes to the sheltered role he plays. Diffuser has been picked up, and Bay needs to haul it towards the server to get now to the A bomb site. He's done just that. Fultz has the cross, and will look for an entry point to the back of the site. Diffuser going down in the hands of Bay. He outduels Kansan and now pulls out the shotgun and wins the fight. Fultz was beaten in round 1, not to be had the same way in round number 2, and SSG will equalize.
Big round from the captain of SSG on what is seemingly his new favorite operator. Pop it off on the Solus. Don't forget, it was just yesterday on the bottom floor of Cafe where he had a huge 4K playing on the Solus operator. Some really nice stuff coming out from Fultz recently. So it's good to see him starting to string together a couple of rounds. That 1v2 shouldn't have gotten that tough to begin with. Frankly, that was a round that SSG started to toss. It was a great entry point, a second opening pick with the Nitro Cell, which really started them on the right foot. But who else other than Kansan to start to drag this round back for Wildcard? In the end, though, not enough. We saw this in their game against Cloud9. Kansan would do so much heavy lifting. He would always be alive in the late round, but wouldn't be able to clutch up when it got to that final 1vx situation. Another situation where he really was inches away from closing out this round and making a huge play for Wildcard, but Fultz is better today.
Fultz will immediately go on to the Clash after playing in those more sheltered roles, as we talk about. Sheltered roles, for those that are curious, are typically your anchored roles, or those that might not be anchoring the bomb site, but are playing in safe spots where they are not in harm's way. Roamers are almost never in sheltered roles by nature of what they do. They're going to be taking up map control. Their job is to waste time, kill drones, just get as much utility as humanly possible. There's a misconception about roamers that your sole focus is to get kills. That's not correct. I mean, obviously, if you're roaming, you're going to be in a fragging role. Getting kills is part of that role. But, I mean, if you die after eating 3 Candelas, an EMP, wasting a fire arrow, wasting an adrenal surge, and shooting 3 drones, you have made a tremendous amount of value for your team despite not getting a kill. Sometimes it's about wasting time and wasting utility so that the inevitable execute is weaker, which sets up your remaining teammates in a more favorable position. In these sheltered roles, you're just simply playing until the execute happens. And if the roamers do well and your flex players do well, sometimes you see very little action and it ends up being an important role, but ultimately a boring one.
This will be the rush coming out. Candella's flying through, as well as the plant from Dash. Immediately in on the Amaru. Shotgun doesn't find anybody, so he holds F.
Hansen dies. Baby Shark trades it right back. Dash getting the diffuser down amidst the frenzy and the fury. It looks like Wildcard will be able to get out of this one with their lives still intact. Dash didn't need to be able to see anything from those Candelas. Bay had it covered. 3 players remain from SSG. Fultz, who had lived to the final moments of the previous 2 rounds, will not be successful in that endeavor this time. 30 seconds left on the clock, and SSG is just Benja and J90. Once again, they will scramble in the post plant. It's in stark contrast to the previous consulate we saw. The attacking side are quite poised in this particular instance. And J90 is waiting for the player on upside down rappel. It's Bay, and he can just mag dump as much as he wants. Benjamaster with 1 second left isn't even going to make it to the diffuser in time. So the Dane will try his best, but his best will simply not be good enough. Spiker somehow team killing Bay. I don't really know what happened there, but I mean, hey, you still win the round. There's cause for celebration, and celebrate. Wildcard will do as they regain the lead.
I liked what J90 did there. I thought he played it as perfect as he could have, using the Kiva barrier to block. Knew it wouldn't stay up the whole time, so goes for the frag. Doesn't quite get it. I don't really know where Benja was at in the 2v3. He kind of was not able to find any frags. Maybe was distracted elsewhere on the map. Not 100% sure, but it's a good rush to come out from Wildcard. I really enjoyed that from them. The meeting window in with the Amaru it's a classic play. Don't get me wrong. It's not reinventing the wheel, but it's one of my favorite pushes that we see on Consulate top floor. You so often see an Amaru or some other operator bring it in through the CEO window. So often when the defenders hear an Amaru hook, they assume it's CEO. You kind of saw that just there with a Nitrocell being tossed at CEO. When it goes in meeting, it can often catch players off guard. So really nice little strap by Wildcard. Managed to get that diffuse get down. Managed to put them in a 2-1 lead early on the attack of Consulate, which is always a promising sight. They will go ahead and ban out the Kaid for the third operator here, and Dokkaebi responded by SSG.
Dokkaebi, another one of those nuisance operators that is hard to deal with and usually relies on a mute being present to counter, but as Wildcard has banned out the 2 SAS operators, which is quite abnormal, you don't really have to deal with a mute, and you now can play with impunity. Right? Wildcard have completely changed up their lineup. They brought some nuisance operators. No Dokkaebi on the board, so great counter reaction from SSG to take care of that operator. As we talked about with the mute ban, Dokkaebi can be quite strong, but no mute means Lion is going to be empowered, and that's the exact operator that Spiker will go with. Doesn't hurt that 417 does an awful lot of damage, and DMRs also do a disproportionate amount of damage to walls. They have quite strong caliber-based destruction. They can deal with floors, they can deal with walls, and they can deal with hatches. So that's why you've seen a shift that has occurred regarding those weapons. Lots of intel as well from Wildcard that will be gained from those Brava drones, the Kludge drones that come out, not just taking info away from SSG, but will also give information to Wildcard along with those Lion scans. So Wildcard, as long as they can keep their drones safe, they'll be well poised to know where these SSG players are.
Ashen picking up the souls this time around. Historically at Reload, he played smoke on this bomb site. Obviously not an option for him here at Piano, so... Or not Piano, excuse me. This is Archives Tellers, my mistake.
That's okay.
Regardless, this is an interesting operator for him to pick up. 2 players immediately downed on the side of SSG as Ashen finds one with the shotgun.
Device planted.
Surprised we didn't see anything in chat from Ashen. Wildcard have suffered on their entry a number of times now. This round will not get much better. They managed to take down Newers, which is excellent, but they've lost another player as Bay is traded out. Now it's Spiker on the hunt. And don't let the silhouette confuse you. There's a hard wall between the 2 of them, so Spiker will have way more work to find one of these SSG players. Hansen has evidently found one too, as he's taken some damage, though I'm not quite sure what the culprit is here. Boltz has his back turned, so Spiker has his work cut out for him. Hansen's outside the building.
2 players top floor.
Bad shape.
2 players in the basement. This is very spread apart on the side of Wildcard. 1 in the basement, 1 outside. This is really awkward. SSG have grouped up into 2 pairs of players, and Wildcard can't do the same. The Lion Charge, they'll try to now, but even still, they're so separated, and there's not very much time.
Every single one of these rounds has been paced out very differently. And I mean, Wildcard have been a little slow, but very poised. Danzen spent all that time to get smoked by Ashen on an angle that he knew was coming. But obviously you can't be fully prepared for that, and Ashen is really feeling himself. He's gone through a bit of a journey on this SSG team and had some notable struggles at live events, but today, the Ashen that we know and love has shown up. Now it's Spiker to wander downstairs closer to this split level. Don't let Ashen's talking really get to you at this point. SSG paying tons of respect to Spiker. A very patient and stalwart defense from them. And back and forth we will go. As now it's SSG's turn to take the round.
Yeah, I'm looking at Dash in a couple of these rounds. He's not really had much impact on the Blackbeard. It's an operator he played a lot of on Consulate back during the Reload tournament. So I was expecting to see him bring out more Blackbeard, and he has, as it's not gone banned. But currently yet to find the scoreboard 0 for, I think, 3 at the moment, 0 for something, as he's yet to find even a single kill and a lot of early deaths. He had one earlier in the game that was a C4 pick, which is hard to criticize that one too much, but it seems like something is not really going his way in terms of these shield pickups. A couple of them have been banned still, some of the other shields on the board. So I don't know. I would like to see Dash get a little bit more active. He's by far the most experienced player on this team. 8 times he's gone to a LAN. He's a major champion, but maybe not the most consistent, as we're finding out in this game. He was great at the Reload tournament, but just not really finding his stride in the NAL.
We went from J9O having an out of focus camera to now it's in focus and Newers is now out of focus. So I guess we can't have nice things here. I am a little bit baffled by SSG calling their timeout this early on, but I will obviously default to what we say when this tends to happen, which is we don't know what the coaches are going through and we don't know what the coaches are hearing. I mean, if you want to diagnose a problem, it's probably better to, be the person that's standing behind them and hearing them. SSG have given up 2 rounds to Wildcard on attack. And we did give some credit and some props here to Wildcard for those first 3 rounds and how they looked. I assume Callout is not particularly happy about this and has assessed that there's an issue with Spacestation and he's going to call the timeout quite early on. I do think that is suspect timing if you consider that Consulate is favorable to the defenders, because you're struggling as the defenders right now. Obviously that's not good, but Spacestation must be either quite confident in their attacks or Callout must be quite frustrated with what he's seeing, because in about 6 minutes time, you're going to be going onto the harder side of this map and you won't have a timeout to fix any issues that might just pop up. Again, would love to be able to hear what Callout is saying, love to be able to hear what the coaches are saying, because if the pop-up is correct and this was a timeout called by SSG, I have to wonder what the thinking was behind it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense here because you've got a 2-2 round count right now. You really need to be closing this out 4-2. You have to make sure you win these next couple of rounds just so you have a chance on that second half. If you go 3-3 into an attacking half of Consulate, I mean, it doesn't often end well for teams. We saw that just in the last game as Orgos were not able to win then a single attack on their second half. So for SSG, this is feels a bit do or die, even though it's 2-2. They need to be ending this round in a positive situation. So especially if Callout is hearing something, I don't mind it one bit. J9O is going to be the initial point of contact, playing the Azami over by admin. I mentioned it previously in the other game. We had a really cool castle roam over on this side of the map. The Azami a bit more traditional, a bit more classic. Gives you a bit more flexibility too.
Ben just gotten himself in a bit of trouble as some damage was done to the other robot, and now he will go on to the one that is full HP. For those that don't know how Scopos works, there are 2 operators that play for Scopos. They're both robots, and if one of them dies, that's it. That's the ball game. So you just have to ensure that if you are the active robot, you stay alive. If the one that's inactive on the other side of the map dies, well, that sucks, but you still stay just fine. So if you're on a single point of HP, you would typically want to abandon that one and play with the one that's full HP, which is exactly what Benj is doing. I like that you touched upon the roam from J9O because there's a lot of flexibility that an Azami brings. He's keeping those Kiba barriers in pocket up to this point. He's reached his limit. No more will be generated. So now he can be a bit more reactive. Instead of setting up his own roam, he can prepare for where Wildcard will push from.
And this is a cool clash strategy at the end of elevator. Usually you'll see this as a deployable shield, but instead it's the clash, and that baits in a pick for J90. Nicely done. Looks like a rappel coming down from the skylight. He's got more players to duel at the top of Spiral. Once hopped in, Baby Shark drops from the skylight, so he's gonna eat his last words. Kansan and Spiker now in the 2v4 as this round has descended to chaos.
Yeah, this is not very good. Spiker will find his demise at the hands of Ashen. This is a familiar sight, and Ashen will likely at some point take time to talk in chat. Kansan has been collecting a decent amount of kills, but for the most part, they have been impactless. So while his tally looks quite nice, they haven't had a huge impact on the actual round outcome. Bolts is just killing time as much as possible. 10 seconds left, and Ashen will get the final kill. And will be robbed of whatever post-round chatter would emerge from Space Station as we get a beautiful stuttering picture of Newers. That timeout was adeptly called. They must have seen some issues. They fixed it. And here we are with Space Station just demolishing Wildcard. Wildcard just put in what might be their worst performance yet on attack, and it comes right after the timeout was called. So kudos to Call Out for seeing an issue, addressing it, and then his team immediately handling it.
Yeah, and I think, again, it comes down to no real answers to that Clash of Zombie combo that was holding things down over towards Spiral, over towards Elevator Hall. We saw in the replay, Ashen also did a great job on the Warden holding things down towards Meeting, but I really, for me, think that the brunt of that hold came down from just that combo of the two strongest defenders in the game, Clash plus a Zombie. Wildcard chose not to ban either of those operators. They they decided to take out Mute and Smoke instead. The Kaid a bit more traditional of a ban on Consulate, but they knew what they were getting into with these bans. They left up some really powerful tools, and SSG in that round in particular really did a good job of using them.
And everybody on SSG played a pretty vital role there. I mean, both Newers and J90 have had a quiet game. Newers is playing on a very sheltered role as well. We talked about how Fultz was there for the first 3 rounds. Now, lately, it's been Newers, whose name we've said very little. He's deep inside the bomb site for the most part. This round, he'll be rocking Amira, who will be integral for the setup pre-execute, and he is a nitro cell that so far SSG's actually found great success with those pocket explosives. Both Ashen and Newers have gotten kills onto Wildcard players on entry, which getting a nitro cell on entry is not rare, but it's really not something that you see all that often. And it hurts, right? Because you enter, but there's obviously some intel there that's being played off of by the defenders, and it shows that they've got a good idea of where you're going to come from. Wildcard were caught flat-footed twice because of that.
Ashen alone on the top floor while Benja and Fultz hold down this mid floor. It doesn't seem like Wildcard want to do a traditional top down. They were pressuring that mid floor, which means that Fultz will now have to drop away. Bay up here on the top might find an engagement with Ashen, who's over towards vending at the moment, but these air jabs speak to me that they're probably not interested in full clearing top. Cheeky angle from Ashen, but they just kind of want to block it off. They're aware somebody could be an admin. They're hoping that with these air jabs, they can ignore it, they can clear it, and if Ashen makes a move, they'll be able to get that sound cue. They'll be able to hopefully capitalize and make it a kill as well. Benja still remaining inside of Visa as the second roamer to hold, and everybody else down in the basement. I'm curious if Ashen or Benja will try to make a move before this push.
Just buying time now as those boogie drones will tear away at the floor and push SSG out of comfortable positions into what might be the waiting arms of Wildcard. We've seen coordinated teams before tear open the floor with a buck, maybe a sledge, sometimes breaches, or even the ram, and then somebody else is waiting, watching as the defenders flee like cockroaches the moment you turn on the light. The black beard of Dash now encroaching upon the bomb site, Jesse, as there's only a minute to go, and the first kill will come out. 2 kills very quickly from Wildcard, answered back by Fultz, with the advantage still for Wildcard at this point.
Awkward for SSG. That flank did not go their way. The 2 roamers tried to make a move, and it was shut down by Baby Shark. Now with a man disadvantage, what do you do on this site? You would at least clear Dash, who again has been struggling on the Blackbeard.
Bay really struggling with that R4C, wearing the battle kit for Wildcard. Kansan long range gets Newers, who's playing on that sheltered role, but it doesn't protect him in this instance. Now it's Kansan getting softened up as J90 and Fultz will hold down the fort for the remaining 20 seconds. Waves coming in, the tide comes in, Bay finds yet another, and Wildcard looking to draw even through this first half. Spiker will get the final kill to exit that first half, and sure enough, Yet again, as we've seen multiple times today, we've got a tie game at the tail end of the first half.
And again, good to see Wildcard analyzing what's going on with that defense from Space Station. They recognized there were roamers up top. Kansan had the air jabs. Baby Shark had the picks to take down some of those roamers. I believe Fault's got the first pick for SSG onto Dash, but it just didn't seem to matter when that roam presence was so quickly shut down, so dominantly shut down. 3 players in the site is not enough to hold on. As you mentioned, 3 attacking round wins for Wildcard feels very good if you're now swapping over to the defense. Azami banned out here, which I do like. We saw it very well used by J90, so not going to be an option for anybody on Wildcard that want to rock that operator. And then another Glass ban. We've seen a lot of Glass bans here on Consulate, and it makes sense. It's a popular operator, probably his best map, especially for that top floor and for the basement, but yeah, odd to see him getting so targeted down by these defenders banning.
I mean, Glass is also just such an oppressive operator. You know, when you look at how many smokes are often brought, every single smoke that an attacker has access to empowers that Glass, and it also robs you of time. You have to be reactive to a Glass. If you know that there's a Glass on the border, if you know that there's a fear of a Glass being brought or a Capitao being brought, more often than not, that's going to necessitate a Jaeger or a Wamai in order to shut that down, or depending on the bomb site, it's going to make you tailor your defense to a single operator. It's a lot easier to just ban it and get rid of it and not have to worry about making those changes. I mean, I like the ban. I also like Glass as an operator. We've seen a bunch of Glass today when he's remained unbanned, and you see how tough it is for teams to engage with him. So good call by Wildcard to take care of a powerful operator that SSG could have easily abused.
Baby Shark hops over to the Fenrir, probably the best Fenrir map in the game as well. We see that operator getting banned a lot on Consulate. Not what you wanted from the Nitro cell, as they were hoping to find Ashen. Second time, a little bit predictable, I think. Parker, as Ashen easily backs off. Here's the rush.
And there's some Candelas in. Dash dies immediately to Ashen, who looks for more. The kill feed is disappearing about as fast as Wildcard is, but they've managed to keep numbers close enough until they all die. Wow, what a sweep through the bomb site for Space Station. And they win their first round of the second half in record time.
We're talking about a Glass ban. There might be an argument for an Amaru ban on Consulate. I just feel like that rush in through meeting window is so strong. Try it in your rank games. You know, it's a fun strat. People often don't expect the Amaru to come straight on in. And as soon as you can pull out that shotgun, well, you're in a really good position. Both teams now abusing that strategy in different ways. Wildcard to get the kit on the ground and SSG to frag out with Ashen on the shoddy. But yeah, regardless, really nice stuff coming out from SSG, emulating what Wildcard wanted to, or were able to do on this exact same bomb site, although in a slightly different way. So cool strategies being shown by both teams. I like that a lot. You can see the coordination on the side of Space Station, and as if you're a Wildcard, it's just really hard to stop a rush like that when SSG are so well coordinated and you're not 100% sure exactly what's going on.
You know what's a great operator to play if your opponents don't know what's going on?
What operator, Parker?
It's a Glass, because then you can see through the smoke and they don't get to see you. But you know,
fair enough.
Yeah, they banned them. It was a joke. That's fine. Whatever. Don't give me the reaction I wanted. It's okay. Dash has been held off of the scoreboard through 7 active rounds, 8 rounds total at this point. Dash, again, is not one of the main aggressors on Wildcard, so his role does not necessitate kills, but neither does Fultz's, for the most part, and Fultz still has 5 of them. It obviously is tough for Dash to kind of acclimate to a different region.
Mm-hmm.
He looked good at reload, you hyped him up, and I honestly think Dash is a terrific player, and I think he's got quite the history, but Brazil and North America do not play the same. And sometimes they require different skill sets and they require a different mindset. You know, Brazil can be a lot more chaotic, a lot more aggressive. NA can be chaotic, but in a different way. Less structured than we see from Brazil. Nice pick by Kansan to take out J90 as Baby Shark was under watch and he softened up. Dash finally gets his kill right after Benja trades Kansan. Dash falls immediately. So whatever he gains, it's immediately gone. And now a 3v3 with 1:45. SSG wanted a breakneck pace in the previous round, and they are still working to achieve that here on their second round of attack.
I think SSG have really done their homework onto Wildcard. Again, they played this map 3 times in Reload, and they brought a similar op lineup with Baby Shark constantly playing the Vigil, some of these more tricky roam operators like the Solus as well being brought by Bay. So what did they do for a roam clear op lineup? They brought in an IQ to track players and a Dokkaebi and a Jackal. Now, some of those are falling in the execute. They got a clutch back at a 2v3. But even still, it shows that they've been doing their homework. They had the right tools for this push. They've just got to make it happen in the late round now.
And you still got 2 great players up for Wildcard to hold SSG at bay. They're spread out, though. Fultz is staring, waiting for the call to walk into the bomb site. Ashen will do coverage from above, but you have to force one of these Wildcard players into an unfavorable position for them or make them make a mistake. Ashen's coming up empty-handed at the moment, and he's desperately looking for one of the bodies down below. Wildcard tucked very snugly into this bomb site. Fultz has now joined Ashen from above, so the call to go through the garage has been halted for the time being. He'll go up, immediately help with some of that soft destruction, and then go back to assume that position as nades get dropped on the heads of unsuspecting Wildcard players with limited success. What a shot by Fultz, who makes his own luck happen. Now Ashen has a read, but Spiker has a great shot of his own. Nitro Cell goes out. Fultz wrestling against both the team, but also the time. One player tucked into the corner, the other inside of office, and he doesn't know which one to go for. Wildcard punish him, and they tie the game yet again.
Spiker doesn't have a lot of kills in this game, but the kills he has had have been very impactful. 2 big ones at the end of that last round, killing Ashen up above was a massive one to stop Fultz from planting. As soon as his cover died, he knew he had no chance in that round. Really good anchor play from the youngest team captain in this league of Spiker. I like the play from SSG in the 2v3. It was a little bit weird that Benjamaster went down before that push. They really wanted the 3v3 execute. That could have been the difference maker, but just a weird death from Benja before the push got going, forced them to push without man advantage. And then Fultz doing a great job with that breaching charge. He was able to pop it right before he jumped in the garage window, or garage door, which might have been able to distract the player that he caught inside a cafeteria. Didn't exactly see what that player was looking at when Fultz was jumping in the breach, but regardless, it was a nice shot. Just couldn't beat Spiker, who was down in the basement, and hit that beautiful vertical hit, and then the last one too. That's what you want from a young player on the side of Wildcard.
I can't remember if I said this on broadcast, but just simply looking at the teams that were playing, I suspected this would be the most back and forth and most thrilling of the matches today. I can't remember if I said that to you in private, or if I said that to somebody else behind the scenes, or if it was said earlier in the day. Looking at the actual games, I expected OXG Cruelty to be a tighter match. I didn't know if it would be quite so exciting, but SSG and Wildcard match up quite well. I am intrigued to see how Cloud9 and M80 will fare, as that's our final match of the day. It'll be coming up in, well, probably about half an hour or so. Cloud9 had some good looks yesterday against Wildcard, and I mean, Wildcard looked like a very different team than the one we're seeing today. M80 is M80. They are an incredibly dominant team. They are 4/5 of a major winning roster, so Cloud9 might have their hands full. Wildcard and M80 cut from a different cloth, at least up to this point. First kill comes in favor of Spacestation. They start off the round strong, and with 2 minutes to go, they're looking for more, and they'll find it. Baby Shark punished by Newers.
Not what you want from Wildcard. 2 players going down with no hope of a trade. That vertical pick from Newers feels really nice, because that shows that they've got some information as to where these top floor players might be. That, or it was just a really good read. Full admin control now from SSG. Jane, I know on this Capitao, his goal is going to be to clear out elevator and vending. And anybody who might be playing back towards Spiral, or anybody who might be inside a meeting. This is often the toughest chokehold to clear on a map like Consulate, so being able to use those Capitao bolts could be vital.
Dash is going to itch for a kill here on the lineup, as Ashen is just waiting to come through that door frame, but Dash didn't have full intel. He doesn't necessarily know if somebody's over there. Now he's not going to have much intel at all, as he's blinded by the Candela, rolled in by Fultz, so gingerly tossed through the door. A second will join. Kansan will now be harassed by that death mark. Lots of issues being presented to Wildcard, keeping them on their toes and keeping them on the run. Final minute, SSG impervious to damage through this round.
Walking off the sight line, so now they can push past without worrying about any swings from Spiral, but they have to go before that dissipates.
Finally, a member of SSG will fall. Benjamaster is the culprit at the hands of Spiker, and a blinded Dash is surviving because Fultz couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. Looking for a triumphant shot. Dash will find one. Kansan and Spiker on the board as well, and what was a huge advantage for SSG has completely evaporated. It's Newers to clutch up. Now in a spot where he has to take these engagements, and he gets the read on the left. He'll have to cross to the right. He knows where Kansan is, but Kansan wins the fight. How often do we hear this? Many pros across all regions have tried to engage Kansan in a 1v1, and very few come out on top. Kansan is mechanically quite gifted, and with it, Wildcard wins the round on a very poised defense.
Yeah, I believe it was Foxey on the desk who called Kansan the greatest player of all time. No one in history comes close to him mechanically. That's a more or less direct quote. So, no, Kansan's been fantastic, and I think that's another one of those moments where SSG, I liked their early round. I liked the strategy. They had full admin control. I liked the Capitao bolts. I liked the Ying Candelas, but some whiff shots from Fultz for sure doesn't do them any favors. And then around the map too, not able to find much. This will prompt attack timeout out from Wildcard. Both of these teams then calling their attack timeouts after their opponents had won a round. Farhad is correct on who's calling this, which is a little bit odd to come through, but again, it's happening when both teams are on the defensive side, so winning those rounds are critically important. So it might just be that they want to lock things down on the side where things matter more than on the attack.
Spoke earlier about SSG calling their timeout when they did, but both of these teams aren't calling their timeouts when things are going bad. They're calling them after they've won a round. Spacestation won the round, they called a timeout. Wildcard wins the round, they call a timeout. There's obviously a thought process behind when you decide to talk to your team. Coaches only have one opportunity to talk to their team, and that's during their timeout or during a timeout. You might have two opportunities if both timeouts present, because it's not just the team that called it that gets to speak to the players. Callout got to talk to his team when he called the timeout earlier in the game, and now gets to do so again because Wildcard called it. I mean, it might be a winning strategy. SSG took what Callout said and immediately put it into action and looked like a much better team. Wildcard, well, they're in a position where they're 2 rounds away from a victory, which I don't want to say is an upset, given that we're still only in our second play day, but in terms of potential and history and recent results, I mean, excluding what happened in Reload, most people would give the nod to SSG, and the community vote obviously backed that one up. But a lot of these teams here in North America are just so evenly matched that one player having a bad day, one round breaking the opposite way that you'd think, that can have a much more dramatic impact on the match than you'd anticipate, and that can be the difference maker. If you're looking at a game that goes 6-6 into overtime, one really bad miss by a player in OT can literally cost you the entire game, as small as it may seem. I'm eager to see what Wildcard put into action now that we're in, well, action.
Action in the fourth quarter, I should mention as well, which means we are done with operator bans for this game. Wildcard removing the Ying. Despite the whiff shots from Fultz, they deem it to be pretty decent threat. He played it 2 of the 3 rounds on this half so far, so I think that's totally a valid ban. The Mira window was also employed by Wildcard on the basement, so it makes sense to take that one out as well. Bit of a weird site rotation as we now go down to Piano. And Chain I know has gotten downed on the Monty very early.
And Baby Shark blown sky high with a Goyo canister claiming yet another Ashen eliminating Spiker, and it's fast and furious, and no, I'm not talking about the VHS. Wildcard now down to 2, SSG down to 3, Ashen on 14 kills with all 3 death marks in pocket. He'll be able to isolate these 2 remaining players over time and give information to his team. That is incredibly advantageous. He's really the only utility left other than a smoke in the pocket of Fultz. Though it looks like the last logic bomb will come online. Kansan's the only one standing, so this is going to get a little bit tough. What can Kansan pull off? A terrific player, but again, Not all 10 of those kills have been high impact. It looks like he might have got an exit frag before getting taken down by Ashen. I can't tell, but doesn't matter because either way, SSG wins the round. So a timeout that was called by Wildcard doesn't really benefit them.
Yeah,
Excellent
I mean,
for SSG to overcome that obstacle.
it's another good rush from SSG too. That's 2 rounds now where SSG have gotten some really fast pushes up against Wildcard, and it's paid off both times. I kind of go back to what the desk were talking about in terms of Wildcard being really good at adapting on this map. Once they kind of get a read on where that push is coming from, they might have a better chance of moving around their players and stopping the push as it comes out. But if you don't give them a chance to see where you're coming from, if you just rush 60 seconds into the round, put that kid on the floor or grab the frags, as SSG did in the previous round, it could be a really good answer to the way that Wildcard kind of like to play this map. So good stuff coming out from SSG. Took them a minute, I think, to realize that both remaining defenders were up above. Eventually, Newers rotates up those yellow stairs, and they can clean that up nicely. But for a while there in the 3v2, those SSG guys, they were kind of looking at the main floor. They were holding some angles where nobody was going to swing them from. I was worried it would be Wildcard coming back with a nice NAL from up above. But as soon as Wildcard showed where they were, SSG kind of had to, okay, realize where things were at and move up top to stop that.
Both of these teams have been far more evenly matched than I think it's fair to say most of us expected, and it's given us a thrilling game up to this point. Yesterday's 5 games, our maiden voyage of this new North America League, left us kind of wanting. All 5 of those games were quite lopsided.
No!
What did you expect to happen there?
He was trying to make an angle through the floorboard so he could see anybody walking into the garage.
Yeah, he detonated it under his feet. I understand what he was trying to do, but why are you... Like, run away.
Unironically, they're kind of still in a better position. They just killed the thermite with a C4 too, and there goes Benja. Parker, they probably still win this round.
I mean, I was literally just about to talk about how lopsided yesterday's matches were, how good today's matches have been by comparison, and then we see what might be one of the most befuddling rounds I have seen in quite some time. Saw a team kill earlier when I think it was Nafe got killed by Citizen or vice versa, and now it's, you know, Kansan tries to set up a line of sight on Pulse, a very valuable info operator, but Monty and Thermite down? I mean, I'll take that if I'm Wildcard. You somehow have fallen from a tree but landed on your feet.
Listen, we can laugh about that play as viewers, but don't try to act like you haven't done that at some point in your ranked games, okay? It's happened to all of us.
Here's a big difference, Jesse. I am not a professional player trying to qualify for an event and win SI. I am a guy who talks about the game, and I am 34 years old. So if I am doing that in the game and Kansan is doing that in the game, we have a small problem.
Fair enough. That line of sight even being used by the attackers to clear out some of those bandit batteries, a bit of cruel irony to come out. The invincible bulletproof will at least be a little bit of a silver lining for Wildcard. They do still have ban advantage. Again, I think they win this round, but SSG have it in them.
I mean, if you're Wildcard, you just need to sit back. There is no reason for you to overextend or to push out here. You know that SSG is a bit entrenched right now with their execute. They have to push through main breach or they have to go through yellow. That's basically it. And I mean, they didn't even get the breach open. So, I mean, what can you really do? Is that a nitro cell tossed out that was caught in time? SSG has somehow turned this round on its head, and it's all up to Baby Shark and Spiker, both of whom combined for just 30 HP. Hell, you could probably tase them to death. Ashen covering the crosses. Now Baby Shark will look for the swing. Plant going down at the hands of J9. Oh, and Ashen will get them both. And SSG will move to match point. My favorite round just concluded. 5-5. You know, the winner goes on to match point. They've guaranteed themselves 1 point. Overtime is still possible. But Space Station will have 3 minutes to get out of this match without needing overtime.
Unironically, the most baffling round I have watched in a good few months here. That was from start to finish. I mean, the Nitro, obviously, we talked about it to death, but even that push, it's a 2v4. Wildcard, they have the sight. It should be so winnable, but the long angle from Ashen gets it down. The hatch play doesn't go the way they want it to go, and then Ashen, some big performances late to cover his planter. Don't forget, Ashen was the single worst player at the Reload event in Rio just a couple months ago, right? He was bottom of everyone when you look at the statistics. Kansan, on the other side of the board, was the #1 North American player at that event. This is a battle of best versus worst, but you can see what a difference makes when you change up the system that you're playing in, right? SSG, back at the Reload event, they built their system around Newers. They were trying to play around Newers, and Newers did well, but the rest of the team did not. Now they're building back around Ashen. They tried to switch up their system, and it has worked wonders for them. 17-8, a statement game from Ashen, but it's not over yet. With Wildcard and how they've been playing and the side that they're on Consulate, this game is not easy to win. They've got to lock in these next couple rounds.
I like how you say next couple rounds, which leads you to believe there will be more than just one. I mean, Baby Shark is off to the races, gunning down Benjamaster. The Jackal is gone, and with that, Wildcard have bought themselves a little bit of time here on this roam. They'll have a follow-up as Ashen walks in and is met with a very quick end from Bay. Oh my, SSG being rebuffed all across the map. Baby Shark is finally taken down, but the damage is done at this point. Wildcard are in control for the next 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
Yeah, 4vx advantage. Surely Wildcard can't throw this. Logic Bomb starts off from J90, and Newers' plan's going to drop in through Cerber if he wants. The angle is open. Everybody from Wildcard has retreated back to the basement. There are no more aggressive players. They recognize their advantage, and they don't want to press it. They know they like what they have. SSG don't mind that either. Lots of soft breach. Fault's using some breaching charges at the moment. Newers on that buck as well up above. Don't have a ram, but I mean, they've got plenty of soft breach to speak from. J90 in an awkward gunfight, going up against Bay with the shotgun is a almost guaranteed loss.
Halfway point of the round, and one thing that was impossible previously was opening up that main breach. Fultz will get the job done there as the Selmas go off as J90 finds his 5th kill. He was 2-7, I think, at one point. He's having a bit of a renaissance here in these later rounds, and as he comes online, he's hopeful that his team won't need much more from him as, well, if they get the kills they need over the next minute or so, SSG will take all 3 points, and that will be the ball game. It will put us up to our final match of the day, which is Cloud9 versus M80. That's Spiker now, who'll be staring down the doorway where Newers is just seconds away from walking through. A drone scoots by and might have received both information on Kansan and Dash. Newers was unaware of that position. Spiker's patience wears off. And now it's J90 and Fultz to walk on in, and they see the goo mines. There's a bulletproof camera that'll be watching them as well. Dash gets punished. Fultz a triple. The nitro cell goes off, and it looks like they both die to it. A confusing end to the round, but a wave of relief across the face of Spiker. And I mean, I think the expression in the back tells us all we need to know as we will go into overtime.
Another 4vx advantage nearly tossed by Wildcard. Thankfully, the toss of the nitro was good enough to get the last 2 kills. I didn't notice anybody on that bulletproof. It might have been unviewable as well. I'm not sure if they had sight on it, but regardless, that's a scary round for Wildcard to have almost lost. A spawn peak opening pick on a Benja, another opening duel into Ashen that goes untraded. I said it's a guaranteed win gunfight on Spiral Stairs that Bay ends up losing to J90. So all of these things should be favoring Wildcard, should be giving them the edge. They nearly tossed that one out. I had a bad feeling in my gut about that round, and thankfully Wildcard did not prove it correct. This game, though, I mean, this could have absolutely been a 7-5 for Wildcard.
I mean, there are games that are good because they are predictable. There are games that are good because they are a technical masterclass. There are games that are good because of narratives and storylines or individual performances. And then there are games that are good because we have no idea what is going to happen round by round. And that is exactly what we've witnessed with this Wildcard SSG game. Unpredictability has been the name of the game up to this point. There have been big moments from multiple players, tons of nitro cells landing successfully. Not just starting rounds off, but as we saw from what just transpired, ending rounds as well. There's been good diversity in the operator picks too, and both teams have shown differences in how they go about attacking the site. And action has come pretty quickly and will do so yet again. Bay eliminating Newers, the buck off the board, and Wildcard will have a much needed advantage here in the first round of OT.
Bit of a read on Newers. He's been going down below on this buck pretty consistently on this site. Not sure exactly where Bay found the frag, but regardless, his ability to find an answer to that opening duel from Newers is very impressive. Showcases that now Wildcard know how to read SSG. They've been learning from these last couple of rounds. They've given themselves yet another man advantage. Doesn't mean that it's going to be easy to close out. There's no way this guy swings Ashen.
Ashen looking to breach 20 kills. We got pretty close earlier. I think Ambi finished with 19 kills in his match. Ashen's got his work cut out for him at this point. I mean, it will be a target-rich environment as all 5 players of Wildcard are still upright. SSG were in this circumstance before, and they lost the round, if you recall.
Yep.
Now it's time for SSG to turn the tables and win a round from behind. Fultz and Ashen will have to accomplish this. They've got plenty of time. I mean, we just passed the halfway point of the round.
What do you do right now? I mean, stepping into Dread Mines, no swings being given by Wildcard. That's the correct response. You know, force them to walk into your crossfire. Perfectly played. Kansan gets the trade. Yes, you lose one, but he's back in to trade his teammate.
Can't help but the humor of it when you say no swings to be had right as they swing, but
They swung
Fultz
together.
will take an engagement. He dumps his bailiff out, does a whole host of damage, but not enough to secure any of the kills, and Wildcard will dogpile him. They are a round away from winning their first NA League match of the season. Can they pull it off? Both of these teams have secured points by being here in overtime. Wildcard will want to walk out of this with 2 points to their name, especially with how tight the standings still appear to be. And if you take a look at the games that will be coming up next week, I don't know if there will be much upheaval in the standings. So you got to get your points now. It goes back to what I said yesterday, where can't afford to drop the early games in the stage thinking you'll make up time later on. It does not work that way.
Another round where Kansan kind of takes over. He has consistently been the defining player of Wildcard. The desk highlighted him. He was talked about to death back at the Reload tournaments. Yesterday, he was their best player statistically. Today, he's their best player statistically. It's kind of hard to stop talking about Kansan when he keeps on having the impact kills, but you saw in that last round too. A lot of the time it's coming off of being able to trade his teammates, right? He's the one who's getting the big numbers, but often it is a team effort. It is because he's able to play off of information from his teammates or even just trading them. I mean, one of the things Wildcard did better than anybody else at Reload was getting their trades. I think Bay was the single most traded player at the Reload tournament, including the Brazilians and CAG and everybody who made it far in that tournament. So Wildcard's ability to capitalize on their own deaths has been a real standout statistic from them, and we're seeing that again in this game.
Was it Fens who was looking for the run out in the previous match from this exact same position? And now it'll be Fultz's time to attempt it. He's just waiting for a sound cue so that he can try and get the jump on somebody rappelling up. I don't know if anybody from Wildcard was in that particular position. It looks like they've made it to the roof quite safely. Maps like Cafe and Consulate can be a real nightmare to run up to just because of the amount of windows that you have to watch. I know that the Rainbow Six devs at Ubisoft have tried to prevent that, but I mean, there's only so much you can do. I mean, windows are windows, and you're vulnerable to get there. SSG, I mean, that's a brazen play to do when you are facing down match point.
Interested to see Bay here on the Aurora. Not 100% sure what he wants to do with it. Currently sitting on the roof, as you mentioned. Haven't really seen Aurora on this site before, so plenty of options. I guess could go admin side would kind of be my guess, but that doesn't seem to be where they're posted up.
I mean, Aurora is excellent at cutting off those late rotates, and first kill comes from Wildcard, immediately traded back by Ashen, who then dies at the hands of Bay. Wildcard 3 kills away from securing their first victory. We'll do it in overtime. I mean, obviously every team wants it in regulation, but you're going to take the points no matter what. They might have a ways to go, as now Baby Shark will be in the ground, joining Kansan and 2 players from SSG. Now it's Dash being hit with that Ela mine, the Gishmat mine, just distracting him, stepping into a goo mine, and you can now begin to see all of the issues that you have. Spiker is still on Skylight, and J90 walks right into that one. Advantage goes back to Wildcard, but is then promptly traded before being gained back again. Just as we saw these rounds go back and forth, what might be the final round has resulted in players and teams trading kills. Newers will stand sentry downstairs by that A bomb site. Bay is low HP. This is very winnable. Bay on 13 kills, Spiker on 11. Spiker, I said earlier, is not exactly the player that you task with getting kills, and yet here he is racking them up. Wildcard actually having a lot of kills across the board. Ashen is like a heat sink on the side of SSG. Newers has a good read. Preemptively goes for the fire with that commando out. Now repositions. The bullets will whiz by him. He's holding it together for SSG to try and keep his team in this. One more attempt Newers can do. SSG will wait and watch with bated breath, but they have no choice but to breathe out as Bay gives Wildcard the win. And they squeeze SSG for all they're worth. 8-6 the scoreline as Wildcard get their first win.
And I'm sure a sigh of relief from Wildcard. You know, yesterday they did not show what they're capable of. Today looked like a much more complete team. Was it a perfect game? Of course not. Kansas blew himself up with a nitro, but it didn't matter. They got there in the end. An 8-6 win over SSG is exactly what the doctor ordered.
I don't know which doctor it is, but I mean, they've got a good hand in diagnosing the problem and prescribing some medication here. Wildcard throws a wrench in the plans for Spacestation and upsets the apple cart when it comes to the ranking and standings of the North America League. We'll take you through what the landscape of the NAL looks like and prep you for our final match of the day when we come back from this break in just a few minutes.
Welcome back to the NAL, where the analysts are wrong when it comes to their predictions, because it is Wildcard that comes out on top. So we do live in a world where it was possible, because that was an 8-6.
Yeah.
I mean, I said they needed a new hand that they were dealt, and they obviously got the right amount of cards. And I mean, it was a way better performance. And I do got to quickly just talk over and glance over Kansas C4ing himself. We obviously saw Baby Shark do that on Chalet. Now we saw Kansas C4 himself. But I mean, overall, I mean, I think it was just a really good match.
Yeah, no, I think there was a lot of back and forth. Right out the gate, like we said, SSG is going to try to deny Wildcard entering into that building. That's exactly what we saw. Wildcard adapted, though, and that was the biggest change from yesterday to today, is Wildcard's adaptation. Even when they were playing from the back end of things, man down, they were still constantly adapting. Even in that round where Kansas C4'd himself, I mean, they brought it down to a 4v2. They still ended up losing by a little bit of over-peaking, but, you know, we can't expect them to be perfect after yesterday's performance. It was a great change of pace, though.
It was, and it was also very exciting with a lot of memorable moments. So the blacklight detail is going to be going to Ashen specifically this time around. I mean, SSG in general, I feel like every single player on the roster, on both rosters today, like, they had their moment.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, SSG didn't win, but this play from SSG, especially with Ashen going through this window, was so sick. He just jumps in. I mean, we've seen it time to time, but this was a full view of it. The second shot, just shoulder peeking the guy into projector and getting that pump shotgun. I mean, we've seen the jump in before, but that was really, really well played. And off of the flashes of the Yings, it blinded everybody. And I saw it, and my mouth dropped. I was like, wow, that was impressive. He got the first pick. Everyone was blind. Beautiful flash executes, too.
And we have the interview ready as well with Spiker from the side of Wildcard. This is their first win in the NAL. So I know it's a second play day, but, you know, congratulations, guys. You're going to get a couple of points there on the leaderboard. Spiker, how has it been for you here in the NAL? Because, you know, yesterday against Cloud9, maybe not necessarily the performance that you guys were looking for. So what's been the change from yesterday to today?
To be honest, yesterday was the worst game that we played as a team. Like, I think it took us a bit to warm back up into games because after Reload, we've only had like 5 or 6 days of practice because of like factors out of our control. As you can tell, Shark and Dash are not playing from where we are, so you probably guess what's happening. But yesterday, I mean, I wasn't calling well. It took us a while to warm back up, but I mean, a lot of it, I'll take responsibility for a lot of it because especially in the attack half, we had a 1-5 and I just wasn't calling well. And today, you know, we all came into it with a better mindset, and we were all like, you know what, we haven't had much practice. No matter what happens, we just need to stay focused, have fun, and that was the biggest thing.
Well, Spiker, congratulations on your win. We were obviously giving you a lot of praise throughout all the Reload. Yesterday, like you just said, wasn't the performance that you guys wanted. You yourself, you know, you're taking initiative, saying your calls weren't great. I mean, obviously, today was quite the test for you guys as well, and as well as for SSG. What was the biggest takeaway from today's game versus yesterday?
Don't nitro ourselves, I guess.
Oh, that makes sense.
I think it's just a wildcard thing, but I mean, to be honest, like, I think we should have closed out in regulation, but I mean, the biggest takeaway is, like, you know, we are still the team that was at Reload.
Yeah.
You know, that's still in us. We just need to, you know, find it within ourselves to be more consistent with it, I guess, because honestly, yesterday it kind of felt a little bit like the CAD game where we weren't really playing like ourselves. So we just need to, you know, take initiative and you know, be more consistent with the level of the team that we know we can be.
Right.
And just translate it to every game day.
Love that.
And how are you planning to then achieve that consistency? Because this is week 1 out of the 5 weeks done and dusted. You still have a couple more coming, maybe even playoffs. I'm assuming you guys have your eyes on that too. So when it comes to that consistency, especially considering the factors that are outside of your control, as you've highlighted earlier already, what does next week look like?
I think just putting more effort and intensity into practice and trying to make it as most like game day as we can. So that way it's not as dramatic as a shift from practice to game. If you saw us in practice, you would think we were going to get last, I'll be honest with you. We are terrible in scrims. So I think we just need to put more effort into scrims, you know, and just always be putting in that level of energy that we put in on game day when we're playing well, and I think that will help with the consistency a lot.
I just want to say, just follow-up question to that, because you're talking about scrims, and we quickly talked over Reload. You said the scrims prior to Reload were looking horrible, and it's kind of the same situation now. Are the same problems still running through you guys?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're still a new team at the end of the day. So, you know, the problems that we're having in practice are things that, you know, are problems with a new team. But the biggest thing between practice and game day is those problems just are, like, way smaller on game day, I guess, because everybody's putting in way more effort. And I'll be honest, bro, some of the teams we scrim are insane, but then I watch them on game day and they're hiding in corners bunkering. I won't call them out, but every NAL team will know who it is.
Drop,
No, name them.
Cruelty.
Okay, well,
Sorry.
good to know.
Hey, we weren't wrong.
We do appreciate the honesty, Spiker. It's been a lovely interview. Congratulations once again on your win. We're going to see you next week, so take care until then.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Love that. Yeah, actually, you know, speaking of cruelty, I mean, we've kind of like touched upon them earlier today as well, and didn't necessarily like hit what we want them to hit. But at the end of the day, this is a roster that came through that tier 2, so they've really like fought their way to be here. And like, yes, they're looking to prove themselves, but you also have a chance to participate in the action with Element.
Yeah, I mean, Element is a good testing ground for these T2 teams. So I think, again, if you want a taste for what that environment feels like, that pressure, Element is a great route for you to try to get your hands on.
And JJ Blast on the screen right there, that's how he got into Pro League with Envy. He was into the NAL. He qualified through the T2 scene. It's very important for you to be able to develop as a professional player through the T2 scene. Also the best way to get noticed, because a lot of coaches be keeping their eyes on the stat sheet. I mean, some players worry about the stats more than others, but at the end of the day, that's the best way for you to get noticed, get that experience.
Yeah, hear it here first from the 2 retired pro players. But we still have one more game coming up today. It's C9 against M80. And this is the game that we said that we really were looking forward to. Both of these rosters yesterday came out swinging, and we're going to see whether or not they're going to be able to keep up that consistency. So don't go anywhere.